Hey, all my Aquarius friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your February 2024 monthly horoscope. This horoscope is based on whole sign Western astrology, so I'm referencing Aquarius rising. This is also applicable to Aquarius sun and Aquarius moon, as well as any people who have 3 or more personal planets in the sign of Aquarius. That's known as a stellium. Now, when you look at the chart, you'll see that it's based on the Los Angeles time zone. So the house structure is not depicted here on the chart. It will change as we go through the month. So I will tell you what houses this is affecting for you when I talk about the planets. So we see here, let's jump right in. Pluto has moved into your first house of self. This is something that you experienced in 2023 when Pluto spent just a wee bit of time before it retrograded back into Capricorn. Wherever we see Pluto, there's renewal. There can be literal death, metaphoric death, there can be emotional death, and transformation. Pluto is a benevolent planet, although most refer to it as a malefic, because to the human, it's very difficult to wrap around the dark experiences that actually liberate us and set us free from powers and controls that we weren't even conscious of. Pluto rules Scorpio, which rules like power and control, rules money, other people's money. It rules death and rebirth. It rules sex, which is a very intimate interaction between humans. So as this transit goes into your first house, I'm going to click on Pluto at 12 o'clock Pacific time. On the first, we see it making a square to the moon. The moon's moving very quickly, so I may not really address the moon, but let's see about this conjunction between Mars, where it is exalted in Capricorn. Mercury is here at 24 degrees of Capricorn, where thoughts have become serious, daily activities have become a bit serious. Capricorn is your 12th house. So this could be very indicative of brave thoughts about my history, about my ancestral lineage, about how much time I give to my dreams and my hopes, and maybe even how much time I want to escape the responsibilities of leadership. Saturn rules both Capricorn and co-rules Aquarius. And as such, there is a call to leadership, whether it is following the structure of the government, which Capricorn would represent, or potentially the structure of the rebel or the libertarian or the innovator. So we're seeing here your 12th house and your first house. You've had a lot of activity going on here. And as Mercury's thoughts have become serious about what you want, it could also indicate a feeling of invisibility in some way, a feeling of not having yourself valued in some way. And I say this because, being in the 12th house, there's this feeling it's the house behind the house of self. So it literally feels like I can't see what's behind me. Now, having Mars exalted in its, highest grace and dignity, it's an honored guest here in Capricorn. This is offering a brave interaction, a bravery to my own transformation, and whether or not I succumb to my fears of the unknown, or I'm willing to start to recognize the Aquarian age, which is the age of thought, the age of Uranus taking our thoughts into places it hasn't gone before, which is the 12 divine laws of the universe, the law of attraction, the law of ebb and flow, the law of compensation, the law of gender. We'll talk about that in another lesson, but they're all applicable here. So now we also see that all the planets are direct right now, as you can see. We are seeing that in a few days, by February 5th, we have Mercury in an exact conjunction with Pluto. This could be a very interesting day. Mercury rules our everyday activities. It rules our roadways, our highways, our school-age children, our siblings. This could bring something, the death of a job or a explosion at work, a transformation of some kind. The 0 degree is always a new beginning. It is this kind of fresh, innocent, unknown energy. And this could very well foster the energy of rebellion. I can't take this job anymore. At least I can't take it the way it is. And I say job primarily because Capricorn builds and works, and Pluto's been breaking down any fears, unconscious energies that don't serve you in that area. And we also see here that Mars is at the 24th degree, and here's Venus. Mars being at the 24th degree is the Piscean degree, which naturally rules the 12th house. Capricorn is your 12th house. This is brave action to believe in the transformation that Pluto is offering. And if there is some kind of disruption, it may be a divine disruption that kind of propels you into a new arena. And as I see Venus here coming up in Capricorn, while it's not her sexiest sign, it's her most practical money building sign. Right now on the 5th, on the same day that Mercury and Pluto have entered Aquarius, we're seeing this energy of, I want to take care of myself. I want to build for myself. I want to trust my self-worth and my abilities and my talents. The 16th degree is the Cancerian degree. And we see Venus making a little bit of a, well, it's a square. It's always a tense aspect, but it's up against transit Chiron and the North Node. And this is digging deep. Yeah, and when I say digging deep, it's like the human experience is full of ebbs and flows, ups and downs, lights and darks. We can be beautiful and ugly at the same time. And it is depending on what we focus on that supports what viewpoint we have. And in doing that, that support of that viewpoint creates a focus. The focus creates experience, which then further supports the viewpoint. So as we're brave here in looking at our fears, looking at what we want, looking at where we are not judging ourselves or judging other people, but rather using it as a piece of information to move my story forward. The 12th house can be very much for me a rear view mirror, where a lot of the information I get there that is about my past, about my fears, about my doubt, about my feeling invisible, that's a point of reference that allows me to back up the car and move it in the right direction. It is not about trying to move the story forward from the rear view point of view. So this point of Mars and Venus in Capricorn squaring the South Node is like, how much will you bend over backwards, and does it really serve? Does it display your leadership? Does it display your value? Or will you stretch for that individuality that you represent, Aquarius? You know, will you say, you know what, I matter, my individual wants and desires matter, my forward thinking matters, and maybe I don't accept feeling alien anymore. Maybe I'm just progressive. Maybe I'm a trendsetter. Maybe I'm like Albert Einstein back in the day. And, you know, if he had been born now, he probably would have been called autistic. I don't believe that's true. Now we see, while the square presents as a point of tension, will I give in to old habits? The South Node represents old habits, overly cooperating, even potentially feeling passive aggressive, or will I stretch myself and say, I can communicate in a way that actually heals? And when I say Teri Hunter says heal, I mean balance, because there is wisdom within the challenges. There is wisdom within our fears. There is wisdom within the dark spots in our life. It gives us an opportunity to claim our happiness and to claim our power and co-creation. And here is your ruling planet, Uranus. It is going to experience a conjunction. Taurus is your with Jupiter. Taurus is your 4th house of home. So I think this is very powerful, because when this conjunction takes place in April, there's a lot of opportunity for expansion and benefit. So the awarenesses that you afford yourself now give you an opportunity to capitalize them as we move further and further into 2024. All right, so let's go from here to, we have a new moon on the 9th. Let me take us off Venus. I'm going to put the time of the new moon, which is 2:59 p.m. Pacific time. This is a 20-degree new moon, and this is a series of new moons that's been taking place. And here I think we're at the 4th new moon at the 20th degree. That 20th degree is the Plutonian degree. And we see here Pluto is still at that 0 degree, offering deep deep psychological dive into where I allow my hopes and my dreams to truly blossom within my own being energy before I try to birth anything into the world. Because this new moon in Aquarius gives you a real opportunity to plant the seeds for the futuristic, for lack of a better term, renovated, expanded version of yourself. When Jupiter and Uranus, your ruling planet, meet in your 4th house, this is like, I mean, literally, it rules property. The 4th house rules property, rules family, rules home, rules self-care, rules our intuition. Now we layer the Taurus energy on top of it. And here we're using your skills. We're expanding on your money through your own renovation, innovation. Maybe you've got a side hustle and you start nurturing that side hustle and it starts to show viability. And the big scary part is, when do I jump off and claim myself? I think this is meaning claim my own resources and potentially work for myself. I think that's something that you could be toying around with, or work in a way that has an entrepreneurial spirit where you could, for instance, let's say you were in healthcare and you were a nurse, you could be a travel nurse. So rather than being married to one institution or location, you could go multiple places that would support you financially and also create more expansion within your reach. So I think this is super powerful. And I also want to note that in no short time, Mars is going to be conjunct its friend Pluto, because they both co-rule Scorpio. And that is a very powerful, and it can go two ways. It can go to a real angry, dark place, or it can go to a very exciting and brave place, depending upon the consciousness of the individual in their human journey. So let's see, that's going to happen on the 13th. I'm going to go back to 12 p.m. and move us over to the 13th. So here now we see we've had a lot of thoughts going on in this conjunction between Pluto and Mercury and Pluto and Mars as they've been traveling together. I also want to point out that Mercury had a retrograde over the galactic center. At the galactic center is at 27 degrees, I believe 14 minutes of Sagittarius. And for the first time since 2016, 2017, Mercury went over this point 3 times, really offering us all an opportunity to connect with downloads and information from places that out of this world. And I mean that both literally and metaphorically, because I think we're all becoming more connected to energy is real. Even if we can't see it, it does affect our everyday lives. And as we focus our personal energy through our thoughts, we transform our lives, regardless of the outside environment, because the law of attraction on some level will insulate us from anything that we would find unpleasant. And so here on this day, I would also say this: if there's people in your life that rub up against you, today might not be a great day to hang out with them, or maybe you want to give yourself a little break. The next day is Valentine's Day in the United States. I don't know if it is everywhere in the world because I don't celebrate the holiday. That's a whole other story. But my point is that can be a very inflammatory day. It can be inflammatory for single people who, are longing for a relationship. It can be inflammatory for a relationship that's gone on into a lull or it feels stale. There's a lot of things that can go on. And if we move to the 14th, we'll see we're still feeling this very tight conjunction here. And as we do, here comes Venus pulling up, she's the caboose in this stellium here. And this is where she's starting to think about her self-worth again. She's starting to think about her value, about her own hopes and dreams. Aquarius rules hopes and dreams. It's what they call an upachaya house. As you age, it ripens and it savors, and your awareness along the journey to, not to own every experience, but to, at the very minimum, be aware of the law of attraction and the opportunity to shift your focus. And I think that that's something that Aquarius is good at, because you have that scientific mind. You're not always embroiled by your emotions. Now, that is not, that differs depending upon the chart. If you're an Aquarius moon, this is probably the most applicable to you, but it's also applicable to sun and rising, as well as the stelliums. So this is a powerful time as Mars enters your first house. We also see that the North Node and Chiron are in your third house of siblings. So it could potentially also stretch you into a place, because of Mercury over here. Maybe there's some sort of interaction with your siblings that could be potentially transformative, or there could be some sort of reconciliation in your own mind, where some people are who they are, and no matter what you do, you can only do so much. So there's no use beating your head against the wall. We also see that Pluto is making, on this day, the 14th, a square to the moon. And I do think that could inflame this whole little trio of planets right here. So, if you're in a situation where your relationship is not balanced, today, this period of time in the middle of February may be an opportunity for you to really revisit what makes you feel loved, what makes you feel valued, what makes you feel that somebody cherishes your energy. We see on the 16th, a few days after Valentine's Day, there's Venus joining this party here. So to me, this is a very, very potentially explosive time in relationships that are out of balance, in relationships that have been hiding on some level or pretending they're fine, but they're really challenged, and the underbelly is we're not aligned. So I think that this is important, because as we surrender to these deeper truths, we allow for the transformation of them into greater experiences that support our happiness. We could have a lot of we can also, if you're single like I am and have been forever, this transit may make you even more brave about stretching yourself in your own individuality out in the world, trusting that the imprint that has framed your life experience up until now really does provide the ingredients for your abundance, for your transformation in the way of material resources that support your earthly experience, the flow of all of those things. Okay, so let's go now to the 18th, when we see the sun entering Pisces. Sometimes, even though, well, it's a little later in the day, but for all intents and purposes, the sun moves into Pisces later on the 18th. And, I can't help but think of this sometimes as a day at the beach, because the sun, and then we have Neptune being the ocean. But we can also look at it as, the sun has a tendency to set on the ocean. Pisces is the natural 12th house. Pisces is your second house. So I want to offer it this way, because as the sun moves into Pisces and it starts this conjunction with Saturn, this could further illuminate what you have garnished over here in this time of Mars's and Venus's transit over Pluto, and what I do believe has been going on since the fall of 2023. So these are a series of, almost like the ocean, we'll have sets, waves coming in sets of epiphanies and revelations that will support Mercury as it moves into Pisces, bringing a more creative dynamic in. It's almost as if the awarenesses of what has anchored me or framed me are starting to be transformed into creative tools. I don't want to say it, but Taylor Swift, most of her breakups became #1 songs. So this might be a great example of something like that. Pisces is by nature imaginative and compassionate. It's dreamy and it's impressionable and a little gullible. It's kind of subject to flights of fancy, believing the more dreamy side of something, even when the harsher side starts to reveal itself. it's also very poetic. It loves dance and photography and filmography and artistic endeavors. So here Saturn has been going through this for the second house for you, really wanting you to frame up and put structure in for your own creative endeavors, making money. And that creativity may have something to do with your own spiritual beliefs or your own innovative way of looking at the world. I don't marry Pisces actually to a religion, but rather to the soul's journey of belief. So you may find yourself being intrigued by the opportunities that you come up with, the ideas that you come up with, as Mercury. Mercury will do enter Pisces on the 23rd. So let's shoot over there real quick. Well, I don't know if it has to be quick, but here we go. See, and this is I think another day of really or a period of time per se where we're going to have the great conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus coming up in April. And yet, as these two planets grow closer together, March is going to be a real ramp up time. So to me, as Mercury moves into Pisces, as the Sun and Saturn all start to come into a conjunction, this is a growing conjunction. It's like, okay, now it's time for me to really start to think about, who I work with, how I work, who I want to work with. I say work because while Pisces is your second house, it's the house where you use your skills to make your resources. You use your voice. And you may be an Aquarius first house who has an amazing singing voice and you've just been doing karaoke and it's time to try out for the voice. I don't know, but whatever it is, it's potentially transformational because now we have in your first house Mars and Venus at Scorpion degree, really just accentuating this bravery within your own self-worth so that you can create resources that will be supported when this conjunction takes place in your fourth house. And I think that could even be like you unexpectedly get money and you buy a new home or you move to a new country. I mean, it could be a million different things depending upon your personal chart. This is just based again on whole sign Western astrology. If I was doing your chart, I would look at it in Placidus because I think the house structure is very important to the soul's journey. But let's continue on because on the 24th, we're going to have a full moon in Virgo. And that will happen at 4:30 a.m. Pacific time. And this is at that Leo degree. And here we see the moon in Virgo is actually in your 8th house. So to me, this is an opportunity to sort of reconcile. The 8th house is that house of deep psychological imprint. In many ways, we're not even aware of it because we're so ingrained that we can give up our power unknowingly. We can ignore our inner voice because that person we slept with was so good in bed. I just don't want to give that up. And love is so hard. There's a lot of stories we can tell ourselves that keep us tethered to things that don't really support us. And I think that this full moon could very well illuminate something in the Leo way, meaning regarding your own personal creativity, your own sense of unique expression out into the world. Naturally, Leo is your 7th house. And, it's a house of partnership, of course, and marriage, but it's also a house of professional relationships and a house where we create harmony and we create peace. So while Leo is your 7th house, I think that this Virgo energy is indicative of your 6th house energy. I'm sorry, 8th house energy. Yes, I'm sorry, because you're going to have something transformative happen in relation to okay, this is the way I kind of want to put it. As an Aquarius, any relationships that you've made in your 7th house, I feel like will be illuminated, whether they support your transformation or they're inadvertently tethering you to an old place. I feel as if there's some creativity coming for you in this way of allowing your second house to blossom. Pisces is your second house. Saturn wants structure in that house, and that structure can sometimes just be disciplined thought that I will soldier on regardless of the numbers I get, the followers I get, the money I make. I'm just going to work on my momentum. Again, we've got this stellium going on in your first house, Pluto offering the next 20 years of transformation, and early born or early rising, I should say, early suns, early moons that are Aquarius. This is happening for you for a while. This is a 20-year transit. It's going to retrograde later in 2024 back into Capricorn, just tip a toe. But at the same time, so it's like basically hovering over this spot. And when I think about the spot, it's the 29th degree of Capricorn, which is the Leo degree of mastering my thoughts about the structures that have affected me ancestrally, historically. Then I'm going over this 0 degree of giving me a new birth in my first house. And then the first degree is, will I be brave, et cetera, meaning the Aries. And here on this particular day of this full moon, we also see Mars and Venus continuing to travel together, supporting the yin and yang energy for your own personal individuality to allow you to put structure into your life that creates more bounty and material gain for whatever interests you may have. Now, let's just think about Aquarius. You may be an astrologer. You could be a scientist. You could be an influencer, work on the web. There's a million different things you could be doing. So, all right, now let's go from the 24th. Let's go to the 28th, which is traditionally the last day of February, but this year we have a leap year. So I'm going to do the 28th and the 29th because I think that it's significant that we have now a tight conjunction at the end of the month. Now, again, we're gearing up for April and even May as Jupiter moves into Gemini in late May. The things that you're working on the beginning of the year of 2024 will really start to, I believe, root in and be experienced later 2024 and beyond. So the hard consciousness awareness that you're doing now to dig deeper into the layers of, am I playing to my authentic truth? Am I playing to what really makes my heart sing? Because that is where the bounty will come. That's where I believe the audience will resonate with producers of content in their own personal authenticity and their journey. They'll find relatability. So I think that, well, again, Pisces is your second house. We're going to see all these planets move towards Neptune. Saturn being the slowest, but as the creative aspect of Neptune being in its rulership and the growing conjunction as we get into March with Mercury, there could be some really great spiritual downloads. There could be, you could have some great creative ideas. I mean, again, the possibilities are truly endless. So let's go to the 29th. This is the last day of the year, our leap day. And here, we see Mercury's moved a little bit, but again, that conjunction is still in play between Saturn, the Sun, and Mercury. Venus and Mars are starting to move apart, but Pluto's hanging in at 0 degrees. So you're still feeling this transformative energy, this sort of yearning to dive deep into anything that's holding you back. And there's a weird brave feeling like, I know that on the backside of this isn't going to kill me. This is going to transform me. This is very Phoenix rising. Now, naturally, Aquarius squares Taurus. So as we move into March, Venus and Mars will square both Uranus and right now have squared Jupiter. Venus squaring Jupiter to me is really not that big of a deal. They're pretty good friends. This might be where we see the more shadow side of it, where Jupiter might here with Venus ruling Taurus, there could be a real historic push pull between okay, let me try to be more succinct. Towards the end of February, with a square between Venus and Mars on Uranus and Jupiter, there may be this awareness of your history, awareness of the opportunities to expand, the knowing you're walking in uncharted territory in some way, and yet will you be brave? Because at the end of that road are your dreams. And wherever you are now, you've seen the scenery for so long, it's time to potentially change it. And that's going to be further evidenced as we move into March and into April and beyond. And when I say scenery, I'm not necessarily talking literal scenery. I'm talking about your interior scenery, your point of view, your perceptions, how you renovate and innovate your belief system. I mean, it's an ongoing journey, and yet when we start to feel the rhythm of it, it gets to be kind of fun. All right, Aquarius, that's it for February 2024. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. I am live every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific time, where we get the angels' advice. We pull a tarot card, we do an angel reading for each sign, and get their advice for traversing the week ahead's transits. I'm also available if you'd like to book a reading with me, either an angel reading or an astrology reading. You can email me and I will send you the information to your email. All right. Thanks so much. Have a lovely February. I'll see you again in March.